Hello, thank you for joining me today. I'm Jan Clothier of Thinking Stamping and I'm an Independent Stampin' Up demonstrator from New Zealand. And you'll probably be watching this between Christmas and New Year. Let me assure you that I am not filming this between Christmas and New Year. It's actually Christmas Eve and it's a really hot summer's day. And I've taken refuge in my craft room. And you know what? I'm sick and tired of cooking Christmas dinners and bits and pieces. So I said to my family, I'll be gone for a short while. I'm off to make a video. So I'm sharing with you today this card that I made while I was playing around with one of the new bundles from the Mini Catalogue, which is coming out just in a few days. I think it's 4th of January it'll be available for you to see. And Notes of Nature I've been playing with because it is the bundle and the suite that Creativity Abounds are using for their February stamp camp. So obviously I was doing lots and lots of things with the stamps and the dies to come up with ideas for projects that I might offer as part of the stamp camp and the tutorial package. Obviously this isn't one of them because I'm sharing with it you now, but I did really enjoy making it and I thought, well, it's a nice quick easy card and that you might like to have a look at it. So the Notes of Nature is part of a mega bundle. You can see here that, you know, there's this beautiful eclectic stamp set with some nice sayings. Just a note to say hello, today's all about you, happy birthday. You know, I'm such a sucker for these eclectic stamps. It's just me. And I love that the dies not only cut out the major images, but there's a whole lot of other beautiful things like this long stem of foliage and this eyelet die that we're going to play with, and all these beautiful little bits of leaf that make beautiful little clusters, which we're not using today, but we are using in Stamp Camp. So what do we need to make this card? Well, for my base I've chosen Pebbled Path because I'm using the DSP that goes with this bundle. It's called Nature's Sweetness. The whole suite is called Nature's Sweetness, and the colours that are in it are Pebbled Path, Pecan Pie and Gold. So I've got my card base, which is my standard size, so 21 centimetres, scored at 10.5, and I've cut it at 14.8. And if you're an imperial person, just, you know, whatever your standard card size base is. And then I've got a mat of Pecan Pie, which is 0.5 centimetre smaller than my card front, so it's 10 centimetres by 14.3. And if you're doing it at imperial, just make it 1/4 inch smaller than your card front, and you're pretty much good to go. So that's going to go like that. I've got a little piece of white for the sentiment. Now, what I did with this sample card is I used the Thanks for Making Me Smile, and I stamped it in Pecan Pie, and I used one of the Nested Essentials dies to do that. For this one, I'm going to try something different. So I have used Today is All About You, Happy Birthday. And I've used Stylish Shapes, and I've used the largest stitched banner from Stylish Shapes for that one because it fits that sentiment beautifully. So I've done that and got that ready for us to use. And you'll also see that there's some embellishments in here which come with as part of the suite. There's this faux gold leather trim that we're going to use some of. And we're going to use some of these lovely little textured cork rounds when we get up to that part. But you'll see that the absolute star of this card is the beautiful, beautiful Designer Series paper, the Nature's Sweetness paper. Now, it's a specialty paper, so it's got lots of gold. One side of each page uses lots and lots of gold, and the other side has a more neutral palette, I suppose. So this technique is one that's really good for using up scraps. Now, I do actually have a few scraps because, as I said, I have been experimenting with this bundle for getting and prepared for Stamp Camp. So I did have some scraps, which I've got here. But in order to show off this card and this beautiful paper, I confess I did cut myself some strips. So all you really need are some strips of paper. Varying thicknesses is nice. Otherwise, it looks a little bit too uniform. And then what you do is, well, I don't suppose you have to, but what I do is then take my paper trimmer and I just angle them. So I'm just going to put it in and I'm just going to cut it so that instead of being a nice straight out rectangle, I've now, you know, it's sort of become, what shape is that? Some sort of trapezoid shape. And so I'm just going to do that to some of them, because what you need to do this technique is, which I don't even know what it's called, scrappy strips. All you really need to do is is have a selection and play around with how you're going to place them. So I don't mind if I cut all of these up, because I feel that I'm going to make, you know, if I don't use them all up on this one, then I'm pretty sure I'll use them all up on another one. And you can see what lovely paper's like. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Just beautiful paper. And then on the other side, Pebbled Path and Pecan Pie in some kind of iteration. Oh yeah, perhaps we'll just do one more. And if I need to, I can always cut. Some more if I need to. Okay, so now I'm going to pop down my silicone mat just to help with the glue factor. And then you just start playing around with how you think you're going to lay out your strips of paper. Now you want to be trying to go sort of this way and that way. Trying to keep a reasonably straight edge on that right hand side. Like, it's never going to be perfect, but it somehow is just a bit easier if you have got a relatively, you know, if you don't let it get too angled, you generally have more success in lining things up. Okay, and you can see that because you've got longer wedges, you've got a bit of come and go on filling up the gap. So if you get to this point or whatever and you think it's getting a bit narrow, you can come up or you can come down. Sometimes you do have to do a little bit of adjusting on the end one. But for a starter, you just kind of get going and see what happens, I suppose. It is one of those things where sometimes you have to do a bit of tweaking and sometimes you don't. But when you actually start attaching, like I've left a couple of millimeters there, so I'm going to aim to have a similar kind of gap between all of my other wedges of paper. Okay, so when you've done that and you're reasonably happy with the layout, then what you need to do is, the simple thing is you just get your scissors and just cut off the overhang. Now, you could just straight on mount that onto your card base and that would be fine, but seeing as how we're using the Notes of Nature dies bundle, there is this beautiful little stitched eyelet here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to nip off and I'm just going to die cut a line of holes and stitching just along that bottom as a bit of an extra variation. Okay, so now that we've removed the die, what we're going to do is we're going to get some of this faux cord. Now I've got a sentiment which I seem to have misplaced. Got a sentiment that's going to go there, so I'm going to go through and I'm going to go in, out, there, and I'm going to tie a knot at that end. And then I'm going to cut a bit of that cord and I'm going to tie a knot at that end. And I'm going to get my dimensionals and I am going to dimensional this onto my card base. Now, I may have had a festive glass of wine too many, because I'm starting to wonder whether I've cut that line crooked, but I think that it's just an optical illusion. Certainly in the greater scheme of things, even if I am a little bit out, it's not going to matter because the sentiment is big. And you see that over the holidays I have not lost my fascination with using plenty of dimensionals. So I'm just going to flick off the backs of those. And the reason I'm doing this is because the cord is quite thick, and so I don't think it's actually possible to have run this line of decorative cord through and not, yeah, it won't lie flat without some dimensionals, I don't think, just because of the thickness of it. So we'll get in here and we shall just pat that down once we're happy that it's flat, that it's even and straight. Now when I did my original sample, I did more ins and outs because the sentiment was narrower, but because I'm using this one, I didn't bother going through all of those. I am, however, even though it's at risk of double thickness, I am going to dimensional my sentiment on. If you wanted to, you could just lay it flat. If you're a bit worried about the thickness, if you were posting this card, you could just attach it directly to your card front. Whoops. Now, let's see if I can get this one straight. You can see this is why I wasn't bothered if that was a little bit out, because that is going to cover all manner of sins on that. Okay. And now, just to finish off, I'm going to get some of these cork rounds, which I like because they're just textural, and they add a little bit of an accent for the sentiment without, being over the top blingy. So it makes it quite a nice thing for a more masculine card, I think, to be having these textural but not shiny embellishments. So I'll pop them there. And there we've got our strippy little birthday card made with the Nature's Sweetness DSP and the Notes of Nature bundle. Now, I won't do the inside for you now. Oh, and obviously when I was doing ingredients for this card, I should have said you also needed a 10 by 14.3 piece to pop on the inside. And all I did on this one was because I'm, using up my scraps of DSP, I just added in a strip of DSP onto that, which is what I'm going to do with this one when I'm cleaning up the mess. Anyway, I hope you've had a lovely Christmas. I hope you're looking forward to a happy new year. I hope you find a little bit of time to do some stamping for yourself. If you've seen anything that I've used today that you'd like to add to your craft stash, then you're more than welcome to shop with me. There's a link to my online store. If you're interested in joining me for the Creativity Abounds Stamp Camp, then message me or drop me an email and I'll get back to you with all the details that you are for that event, which is in early February. Anyway, happy stamping, everyone.